Thank you so very much for being here. If you just joined us or you're still with us, it's still Enterprise the Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's get to our main conversation for today. The All Progressives Congress, APC, has urged the federal government to withhold allocations to local government councils in Osun State following the party described as an illegal constitution of council heads by the Governor Ademola Adeleke-led administration in the state. In keeping with the rule of law, it is our expectation that the federal government will make federal allocations for local government available only to democratically elected and judicially certified local government officials in Osun State, said party spokesperson Felix Mouka. APC said the Court of Appeal in its judgment allowed its appeal against the judgment of the Federal High Court and held that the suit was incompetent and was struck out accordingly. In effect, the Court of Appeal nullified the judgment of the Federal High Court and reinstated the sacked local government officials until the expiration of their term of office in October 2025. That is the valid, subsisting, and binding legal position on the matter. We still have with us Emeka Madunagu. Thank you so very much for hanging on, Emeka. All right, we're having a little bit of a glitch there. It's still Enterprise the Morning, main conversation. We'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so very much for being back. Of course, it's still Enterprise the Morning right now. We have Emeka. Thank you so very much, Emeka, for being back.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes. So let's get to have this talk. Osun State has, of course, done the elections. 20 LGA chairmen have been, made known by the Governor Adeleke. Of course, the APC are saying they are not happy with what was done in the state, asking that the federal government should withhold allocation meant for local government councils in the state, are supported by Felix Mouka, the spokesperson of the APC. Emeka, speak to us on this particular matter. It's becoming a banter between the PDP and the APC with the judiciary right there in the middle.
Yeah, it has become very laughable and comical that the APC that purports to be, a party of Democrats, of progressives, from time to time, calls for anti-democratic actions for the subversion of the rule of law. I wonder, in the case of Rivers State, the APC, of course, went to court that, after local government chairmen, who were in Rivers, after their tenure had expired, the governor similarly organized an election, local government election, and they swore in new executives. The APC ran to court. That their allocation should be withheld. And then there was one strange judgment by the High Court, but it was thrown out by the Court of Appeal. Now, then we went to the case of Kano State. Something close to that was about to happen. But, now this is the Osun State. The APC saying that the federal government, the three tiers of government are the federal, state, and local governments. Now, the states are not acting at the behest of the federal government. State governors are not class captains being superintended over by a senior prefect. That is the president. The states are subnationals. They are not under, they are not, to take directives from the federal government. But sadly, due to decades of military rule, we have not been able to shake off this, mentality, this idea, that the president cannot withhold local government allocations. If we remember, Lagos State government under the man who is the president right now, Bola Tinubu, went to court when his allocations were withheld. Lagos State government went to court to say that no, that the federal government had no right to do so. And the Supreme Court ruled that yes, He had no right to do so. The same thing happened to Akwa Ibom State, that they had no right to do so. And then by the time the next president came in, that was the President Umar Yar'Adua, he returned their money to them. He lifted the lien and returned their money to them. So now, how can you now, having suffered the same fate earlier, and you fought such a thing, you're now calling for it? That the president, what power does the president have? The president receives allocation for the federal government. What is his business with the allocation of states or local governments? The Supreme Court has ruled that, reminded the terms of government that according to Section 162, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, that, all monies, received by the federation has to be paid into the federation account and shared, to the federal, state, and local government. The Supreme Court merely upheld that constitutional provision. So when you now come to say that the federal government should help, on what basis? Based on what powers? Where does it have the power? There is nowhere in the Constitution. There is nowhere in the Constitution where such powers are, provided to the federal government. There is nowhere.
Yes, but so Mouka, what is good for the goose is very well good for the gander. Let's get into the remote cause of all of this. In 2022, the 20 local government council chairmen were sacked by Justice Nathaniel Ayo Emmanuel just months after they were elected democratically into office. Don't you think that the APC has more than enough reason to be upset with what is happening currently in Osun State, knowing that the democratically elected local government chairmen were not allowed the time to serve the state?
Yes, in doing that, you don't now cut off the head because there's a headache. You don't cut the nose to spite the face. You don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. If you feel that, okay, your party men have a right to resume in the local governments based on the order of the appeal court, why are you now, trying to, upturn things by asking that allocations to local government should be withheld? Okay, or that your party men, should be the occupants of the local governments in Osun State. Now, how are they going to operate? With what allocation? Where will the allocation come from? Because if the federal government decides to exercise, illegal powers, to confer on itself, if it decides to engage in self-help and withhold allocations, like he tried to do in the cases of Rivers and Kano states, where will where will they get money to fund the local governments? It will be grounded. It's just like two people on the ground who are fighting. Both of them are on the ground. So they will remain on the ground until they decide to leave each other and get off from the ground. So calling for such is like pushing for anarchy. Of course, the National Secretary of APC, Ajibola Bashir, already called for a state of emergency in Osun State. They're always quick. APC is always quick. To call, it was the same thing they did in River State, call for a state of emergency. On what basis? A state of emergency, there are conditions precedent for declaration of a state of emergency in the Constitution. Obasanjo did that in Plateau and Ekiti states, and it was severely escalated, he was severely escalated by Nigerians, and it was declared that he acted ultra vires his power. He had no powers to declare state of emergency without the authorization of the National Assembly. So, on what basis will the president declare state of emergency in Osun State? On what basis will he, with what powers will he withhold local government election? What this calls for is, what you need to do is to go back to the appeal court to say that, look, your orders are not being obeyed, which ought to have been done in the first place. It's the court that should implement its own decisions. The court has bailiffs that should implement its decision. You don't engage in self-help. You say your party men have resumed fully. Now the state government is saying that, okay, that your tenure in office has elapsed by virtue of the effluxion of time, and that you weren't even validly elected, that you were not validly elected, by, on October 15, 2022, so that, an Osun State High Court actually, as at last week, I think Friday or so, declared that yes, the state government could go ahead with the election, the local government election. So, on what basis are you saying that allocation should be withheld? You can't find anywhere in the Constitution where it gives, where the federal government has such powers. You don't find it anywhere. So the point is this: that is why Nigerian politicians should also be careful. This democracy was hard won. People fought, people died for this democracy. But you just see Nigerian politicians are just so reckless. They just want to engage in anything without caring, about the consequences. The erosion of democratic values. What is the situation? The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, during the shenanigans in the Rivers State, suddenly came to say that the tenure of office of the local government chairman in Osun State would expire on October 15, 2025. But Governor Ademola Adeleke is saying that no, that nothing like that, exists. You cannot put nothing on nothing. That in the first place, the local government chairman ought not to have, even been elected in contravention of certain sections of certain section in the 1999 Constitution as amended. So that they ought not to have been there in the first place.
Emeka, is it not the same mistake that Adeleke is equally making with this one? Because as at the time they were elected, it was the past governor that was there. And of course, he did exactly what Adeleke has done in 2022. So are we not seeing a repetition of the same mistake as done by the former governor right now?
Yes. You see, you cannot put nothing on nothing. That is a legal maxim. So what does that say? That, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. So if you are trying to, demand your rights, you should also make sure that your actions are not contravening or are not, in violation of the rights of others. So this governor is saying that this chairman, elected on Saturday, that they on February 22, 2025, that they are in office legally. Now, interestingly, the Nigerian police force said that it got intelligence reports that there will be violence. But interestingly, there was no violence on Saturday. So why? The Nigerian police, needs to actually stop placing itself, at the behest of political actors, because it's supposed to be an independent institution. Its intelligence reports have turned out to be a hoax. Now, when you're talking about this, the issue in Osun State, what is being said is that the local government chairmen were not democratically elected. But Governor Adeleke is saying that these men, and women elected on Saturday were democratically elected. So when there is an issue like that, it's the courts that will decide on it. And I think what the local government chairman, what I'll advise the APC to do, instead of calling for extreme actions, is to challenge the decision of the Osun State High Court that said the election could go ahead. Go to the appeal court, the Court of Appeal, and then ask for it to be set aside, for, that order to be set aside, because by the effluxion of time, you cannot any longer set aside the order because the election has been held. But you can actually also challenge the outcome, what led to, what it now led to. You can actually challenge it in court and say, well, that they were not democratically elected. But the interesting thing is that how can you challenge an election in which you are not a participant? The APC chose to boycott the election. So how can you challenge an election in which you are not a participant? So it's now a legal, a situation. So the APC should just realize that instead of calling for anarchy or anti-democratic actions to be taken, it should go to court. His lawyer should sit down and find a way out, to go to court so that there can be, so that everything put together, let it land at the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court will decide. Look at Rivers State. There are so many suits, maybe about 20 suits from different quarters at the Supreme Court on different issues, and of course, the political actors in Rivers State, they've finally decided, to allow the court to decide. But each time there is a pronouncement, some spin doctors go to town to twist, the outcome of such cases. But thankfully, there are those who have responded, quickly to say that no, that was not the true position. This is actually the true position of the court's judgment. So, to that extent, I think, because look at Governor Adeleke has said, has advised the newly elected local government chairman to stay away from the secretariats, So, what it then means is that they can operate, outside of secretariats. Like at the time when, Governor Fubara told the APC, the chairman elected on the platform of the APP, that they should stay from secretariat. They should find alternative means of running their councils.
All right,
so that is the situation we find ourselves.
Yes, the situation we find ourselves, unfortunately. But just before I let you go, I'd love you to speak to the issue of democracy, and because you did mention that the election was democratic in Osun State. But how democratic is an election when one party sweeps every portfolio and position in the state? The 20 local government areas in Osun State have been taken over by PDP. The same thing in Rivers State, taken over by
in Katsina, in Delta, in everywhere.
Anambra. Yes, everywhere. Exactly. So speak to us. Are we really running a democratically run a government in Nigeria when one party takes over everything? What is happening to us?
I feel very sad about the situation. What we have now ended up doing is coronating local government, administration. We've now turned local government chairmen into, like traditional rulers, where, we just, an election is held, some parties boycott the election, and then, it's the party in power at the state level that, that actually sweeps all the seats. Was so bad even in some states. No election was held, but winners were declared, and they're in office. Did the other parties go and challenge them? Were they even allowed to go and challenge the results? The answer is no. So, and you look at in Edo State, the governor tried to sack local government chairman. When he was warned by the Attorney General Federation to step back from such an unconstitutional move, what he now did was, to find a way for the council executives to, sack the local government chairman, and also an unconstitutional move. Now they are looking for ways to remedy, the problem they caused. So I think we need to have a rethink about the local government administration in Nigeria. Perhaps we may just need to scrap the local government system. What we may need to do is just, like the Constitution gives the states powers over the local government. I think that's what we should just maintain. Because what's the point? What do you actually need local governments for? If you have the state government has the different ministries that cater to different issues in the state, and it still has a ministry of local government. Then now you find a situation where in at least one state, that the local government chairman issued a power of attorney, donating their, financial power of financial autonomy to the state government to manage their finances, which is unconstitutional, but it's ridiculous. It's a situation of find ourselves. Perhaps what we may need to do is just remove, just fully place the local government system under the states, and then remove the local government from direct allocation for federation account.
But that would affect the grassroots. That would definitely affect the grassroots, because the governance and the leadership is actually right down there at the bottom of the hierarchy. That's where we have our primary schools. That's where we have our public health.
No, how will it affect? How will it? Yeah, the primary schools will take. How will it affect it now? No. What I'm saying is this. See, if we decide to have the local government, let them now be under the direct control of the state government. So what will happen is that the state government can decide to create 100 local governments, you know, and then give them allocations, you know, allocations, you know, and that I think will just have sanity, because what we have right now is not working at all. And it's sad that there are indications that the government at the center, you know, the federal government is looking for ways by which to subvert the state governors through, you know, the back door, by looking for a way to control local governments. That this push for autonomy for local governments is not altogether altruistic. And if you see, according to, you know, the constitutional process of constitutional amendment, you must have concurrence of 2/3 of 36 states. You know, 2/3 of 36 states saying yes, that okay, we want full local government autonomy. 2/3 of 36 states say so. But I tell you, in the amendment process last year, the APC states rejected the local government autonomy. It was the same thing under President Buhari, to the extent that, you know, he tried through an executive order to, you know, bring about local government autonomy, but he was told that he was acting beyond his powers, that he had no powers to make an executive order concerning something outside the control of the federal government. So he had to back off. So what you find now, how are you going to remedy it? How are you going to give autonomy? That means within a subnational unit, you are going to have 2 federating units. How does that work? How does that work? If you look at it, the federal government basically has control over the FCT, and then the ports, the airports that it, you know, controls, and then federal roads, you know, certain areas.
Thank you so very much for being back. Just before we had that little technical glitch, we had Emeka Amadu Nago, and the course of discussion was the Osun PDP APC fracas that's still brewing as we speak. Well, we just have to leave it at this point, and of course sail home. I'd love to say thank you so very much to Emeka Amadu Nago for making it, of course, a date with us today, and most importantly, allowing us have a conversation with him. And for you all, you've watched, you've streamed, wherever you've done that around the world, love to say thank you so very much for being part of our day today. You made the picture complete, but please do well to be part of what we do. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platform at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.